Yes, Doug. What's going on? What's on your mind? Talk to me.
Montana LLCs.
Ooh, on everybody's mind.
Oh, yes.
Especially if you go to any like Cars and Coffee in California or Atlanta, I feel.
And Ohio, we see Montana plates all the time. So the question is, should you or shouldn't you? Is this a good idea or a bad idea?
Whatever he is about to say, it's not legal advice. I promise. Right here, not legal advice.
Practical advice. We can't talk about the legality of it, and nor do I even want to, because you literally get into each individual state-by-state laws, right? So the law firms that do these Montana LLCs have supposedly studied every state's laws, and they have a booklet that they give to you when you're considering doing an LLC that says, like, here's the technicalities of what you have to follow in order for this to be technically legal. So, that's between you and your attorney and the Montana LLC. However, there's some old sayings. One comes to mind: just because it's legal doesn't make it right. That might be one that would apply. Just because it's right doesn't mean it's worth it.
Also that.
So
yeah.
We want to unpack this a little more, because there's some staunch defenders of this, and I think there's a lot more risk here than people are considering. And I feel like, just from my experience and from, anecdotal customer experiences, I wanted to weigh in on it a little more and just talk about some things that you should think about first. One of the first things would be tax returns. If you're forming an LLC, do you have to file tax returns, right? Because most of these people that form these shell corporations just for the purpose of avoiding sales tax on a vehicle, which is, a dubious reason to form an LLC, because, like, you're not actually intending to conduct any business. So, I don't know if that disqualifies you from forming an LLC or not. Again, not a lawyer, not giving legal advice, just sounds fishy to me. But do you have to file a tax return? Looking it up on IRS's website, single member LLC, no, you don't need to file a separate tax return. It is a pass-through entity. But if you elect to be taxed as a corporation, then yes, you do have to file. Now, I'm guessing most of the people who put a shell corporation, they're not even getting a bank account in their LLC's name, so they're not electing to be taxed separately, but it's something you at least need to ask. Along with that, annual reports. Some states require that you file an annual report for any corporate entity, so you need to at least know beyond just, I formed an LLC and I'm good, it's legal in Montana and I got a tax ID number. Like, what else comes along with that to make sure that you're in compliance with the IRS and state governing authorities? Because if you're not, it could be a red flag, right? It's like, don't have a busted taillight when you're smuggling drugs.
Oh yeah, it's the don't do two illegal things, but
don't break the law while you're breaking the law.
Yeah, that.
Yes,
much more.
But I'm not breaking the law. It's legal to have a Montana LLC. Okay, fine.
All right.
Not going to argue with you there. Insurance. This is a big one, both from an exposure perspective and from, an exposure perspective. One, if you have an insurance policy and your mailing address is your home state where the vehicle is used and garaged, the insurance company can provide that information. Supposedly, I've heard of it happening, where the insurance company will provide that information to the governing authorities. So they can the governing authorities can use that information to get the owner's information of the Montana LLC, right? Because everybody forms an LLC in order to have this corporate shield, right? Like, I'm anonymous. It's just this LLC. It's a separate entity, even though it's not considered a separate entity by the IRS if you're a single member LLC anyway.
Which, I think, as we talked in an earlier segment, you don't want the government to come after you, because they will succeed. They can succeed very intensely. So just keep that in mind.
They're very powerful. Very powerful. I have a lot of friends who have large arsenals. And they're like, oh, it's in case of, the government comes for me. I'm like, bro, the government has tanks.
Yeah.
You don't. They will just run over your arsenal.
Yes. Or like drones. They can just take care of you from afar. Like you ain't got to do anything.
Yeah. I get it? Run over your arsenal. Oh, boy. Okay. But insurance. I know this from experience. Long time ago. If you have an LLC and have a car registered in the LLC's name, and this is something you need to discuss with your insurance agent. Again, not a lawyer. This isn't legal advice. Not an insurance agent. I'm just speaking from experience and a lot of time in the car industry. I say time because, yes, it's like prison time. If you don't have a corporate policy, you may not be properly insured. Same goes for people delivering pizzas and doing Uber on their personal policy. There might be an exclusion in your policy for that. I had a claim filed for a vehicle under a Montana LLC. They did cover it, but they dropped me immediately afterwards, and they fought it hard because they said, you did not insure this properly. This should have been a company corporate business policy, which is a lot more expensive and has a lot more restrictions. Whatever. Got through it, but it was very, very close to not having the claim paid. So it's not something, again, that I would do again. You got to be really, really diligent when you're insuring anything that has to do with commerce to have it insured properly. This doesn't just go for Montana LLCs. This is anything that you're making money on. Personal insurance policies don't like that. So you need to make sure that's correct. You need to make sure the insurance company knows your garaged address. Because if you just say, hey, Montana LLC, and they're rating the policy based on the car being in Montana, it might be a different rate than it being wherever you live. And if you don't tell them that, they could use that to deny your claim. So these are just some of the T's to cross and I's to dot when you're thinking about doing a Montana LLC.
What I think is interesting, Doug, is people do not just do this for cars. This has been going on for a long time where people have used it for RVs as well.
RVs makes more sense because my basic understanding of at least Ohio's tax law with regard to sales tax is it's more a use tax than a sales tax. They charge it at the point of sale, but it's applied as if it's a use tax. And I think, again, this goes back years, but at the time that I got a Montana LLC long ago, I'd never do it again. All my personal cars, I paid sales tax on, regrettably, painfully. Yeah, it's all above board because for me, it's not worth the risk. But way back when I looked at it, it was basically like the letter of the law, the technicality was that as long as I didn't use the vehicles exclusively in Ohio, then I could fall into this loophole, right? If I drove to Pennsylvania once and got gas, then technically I was
splitting hairs.
Right. Yes. But like an RV makes sense, right? You're traveling all over the country. Who are they to say which state has a claim on tax? In fact, Ohio is so nuts. If you had an RV in Montana and drove it through Ohio and stopped at a rest stop, Ohio would probably want use tax or corporate activity tax or something like that, just because they're nuts like that.
That is true, but I did find in my researching this to see, I feel like everybody's worried about a crackdown on this because it always seems like things are starting to come out. The state of Massachusetts has a paper published in 2010 where they investigated RVs and fined people for over $200,000 worth of like back taxes. Total.
That's not
it was
that much
like 4 people. It was a
thing.
handful of people. There was like photos in this article. It's all on the Massachusetts government website. Like, so this has been going on for a long time.
Sure.
People occasionally get made examples of.
Yeah, they probably went after the whales with Prevosts and fined them. Same thing happened. There's stories on VinWiki about this in Georgia where they went after at least one, I think it was one, but maybe a few big whales, big time car collectors. And to my recollection, it really came to nothing, right? The car collectors, quote unquote, won. But there's something to note about that. And living in Ohio, I will note this. Ohio is a bunch of friggin' narcs, right? So there have been multiple states, and Georgia is one of them, that have been tipped off by transactions coming through Ohio, because Ohio feels it necessary, apparently, to make sure everybody else is obeying the sales tax laws in every other state. They've taken it upon their self-righteous sales tax selves to say, well, man, Georgia's getting screwed, so we're going to tell on them. But Ohio is actively doing that. Ohio is also going to car shows and searching out and finding and going after people in Ohio. But they're also tattling.
Play in your own sandbox. Come on. What is this?
That being said, the question is it worth it, right? So a lot of people say, and this is true, that in the past, and I know of people that have done this, they have been sued by their respective state, and they went to court and they won. I don't want to get sued by the state.
It just looks bad on your permanent record, Doug. It looks you've been sued by the state.
How much is it going to cost me?
Probably more than sales tax.
Then what?
Yeah.
Like criminal charges? I don't know. To me, it is just not worth the hassle. Now, if I had $50 million worth of cars and a bunch of attorneys on staff, that might be a different equation. But most of the people I know that are doing this are onesie-twosie. At least my customers, right? They're just buying a car. And again, I don't know my customer's intent for doing this, whatever. So I can't say. I'm just saying, on average, when we sell a car to a Montana LLC, we're not selling $50 million worth of cars. So here's another issue. FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. The word crimes is in that acronym.
Sounds scary.
It is scary.
Again, because we're talking about the feds.
Yeah. So this is new as of last year. And I believe if the feds talk to states, which they probably will, who knows, maybe not. There's
at a cocktail party or something. You know.
Yeah. They are now requiring this report called the Beneficial Ownership Information Report. So if you own any corporation, LLC, whatever, you have to file an annual report that discloses ownership information of more than 25%. So all these anonymous Montana LLCs are now required by the feds to file a report that says, here's who the owner is. How do you think that's going to work out for people?
Do you think, Doug, it might lead to an increase of potential crackdown on this situation, as people like to call out?
Well, they are doing it in order to find shell corporations and look for dubious activities. So I don't know.
Would they be looking for tax evasion, Doug?
Well, that's the difficult part, because I don't think the IRS really cares about sales tax, because that's a state thing.
Yeah.
But, you are now on their radar. I don't want to be on the government's radar for anything, right? I already am enough doing things legally. I've got a bajillion regulatory agencies that oversee everything that I do in the car business, on this podcast, at home, whatever. Like, I don't want any more attention coming to me for that. Because I know how crazy they can be, right? So I've been on the unjust receiving side of an attorney general issue with the state of Ohio. Of course, everybody could say they're unjust, but whatever. But it was literally just like, it was a corporation that I had a long time ago. It was inactive, but there was some obscure, this corporate activity tax that you're supposed to file in Ohio just for the privilege of doing business, whether or not you make any money or whatever. And we didn't have any revenue that was taxable, but they just assumed that we did, estimated it, sent us a bill, and sent us to collections for this ginormous amount for a company that literally never had $1 worth of revenue. Oof. So then they file a lien on that company. We didn't even know about all this stuff. And then they transferred the lien to property owned by a different company that I happen to also own, which, again, I'm not a lawyer, but that's not legal. But like, who am I? I can't. They did it. Am I going to take them to court over it? it was like $50 to pay it off. You know, and it was like 20 hours of my administrative assistant's time to deal with this because the government's so slow and plodding, and it was just a nightmare to unwind. But like the fact that they'll do that for something that we didn't even owe them, you know, essentially like broke the corporate veil, pierced the corporate veil. That's the term. I'm like, man, what are they going to do for people that owe them tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales tax? Like, I just don't think it's worth the potential inevitable fight that is coming, even if people win.
Yeah, you alluded, or you said, you know, essentially at the beginning, the sales tax is painful. It sucks. It's also the cost of doing business. I think, you know, if you want to, you're not, the other thing is you don't have some cheat code that other people don't have. There are countless websites that will help you set up a Montana LLC with the express purpose of registering a car there. This isn't some secret. This isn't some hush-hush you're in a cool kids club. Like, you might get caught and have to go through a whole heck of a lot of pain when you could have just paid the sales tax for the thing you supposedly can afford in the first place.
Yeah. I have a customer. I think this is the best example, right? And not to get religious here, but the Bible does say that you should render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Now, morality aside, maybe that was just good advice to like not have to deal with this kind of, you know, just basically like keep things above board because then you'll stay out of hot water. I have a customer who has, I don't know, probably $100 million worth of cars. He could easily, legitimately have an Ohio dealer license. Forget a Montana LLC, an Ohio dealer license to not pay sales tax. He pays probably $1 million a year in sales tax because he trades in and out of cars a lot, and there's no trade tax credit in the state of Ohio.
It's just so depressing.
It is worth it for him to not have to jump through hoops, and it would save him a fortune. He could easily pay attorneys and pay people to do all this stuff, and he just is like, I don't want the exposure. I'm just going to pay my sales tax. So if he can do it, probably the largest car collector in Ohio, then the rest of us can do it. If we can afford fancy cars, we can afford the sales tax. I don't like taxes. I really, really think they are unjust. How Ohio does sales tax is unjust. I am right up there with everybody in thinking this is theft. But what are they going to do to you if you don't, right? I think income tax is a theft. I file my dang taxes because I don't want to end up like Wesley Snipes, right? I pay him because, like, I don't. You just do it and then smile when you know, pay the extra $25 and get the brown noser plate too. So when you get pulled over, maybe you get a break instead of the cop going, "Oh, you're one of those Montana tax evaders, huh? Here's your ticket."
Yeah, you got enough money for this?
Exactly. All right, well, that brings us to the props and flops, brought to you by Switchcars.
And Switchcars is the enthusiast dealership where we buy, sell, and consign only cars that we like ourselves. Check out our handpicked inventory at switchcars.com and be sure to mention Switchcast for special pricing. Find more information at switchcars.com or come visit our beautiful showroom in Twinsburg, Ohio. Doug, what do we got this week?
You got the text wrong. It's visit our showroom in beautiful Twinsburg, Ohio.
No, I ad-libbed.
I think you're more right.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, I didn't like how Doug himself wrote this, and I decided to zhuzh it up a bit.
Yeah. Twinsburg is okay, but our showroom is beautiful.
Twinsburg is fine. It's acceptable.
All right. Pick of the week is 2005 Porsche 911 Cabriolet 6-speed manual, and it is dark olive metallic over terracotta interior. Friggin' money spec. I don't even know how many miles it is because I just got distracted by the color. I think it's pretty low miles. Anyway, we just recently got that in. If you want first dibs on it, send us a message because it is not even on the website yet. It's going through recon, but it's, I love it.
I think I blacked out for a second. Holy crap.
Wow.
Wowie zowie.
Dark olive blacks out too when you in low light.
It does.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's see. Flop of the week. This was a tip by a loyal follower, Erod, on Instagram. A lot of you saw this twin turbo Lamborghini V12 powered Miata that was at the SEMA show. Yes, that made the rounds on the internet. It went viral, except it was actually an LS V8. The turbos were not even hooked up. They were just for display only, just randomly placed where the pop-up headlights would go. The Lamborghini heads were not even connected to the engine, and it didn't run.
Womp womp.
At that point, why even put an engine in it? Just like make it an art piece.
Also, that would be so atrocious to drive. That engine has to weigh as much as the Miata without an engine. What is the point?
Well, it's never going to drive. So, I mean, the point was, well, it was spurious. Yes. Not as it appeared. And they defended themselves. It appeared on Instagram as well. People really, really loved like catching them in the act and saying like, man, you guys are liars, which is hilarious because I got so much hate for doing the same thing to that Lambo kit car guy because I was being pretentious and all that. But it's like everybody wants to catch somebody in a lie, but then everybody wants to defend the liars at the same time. I don't know. Anyway, our prop of the week. Okay, our prop of the week is our sponsor. But I want to tell a little anecdote. This is why. Okay. Our boy, Johnny Sabo, good friend of the podcast. He's been on a number of times. He's a ginormous watch collector. He's not ginormous, nor does he collect Invictas, but he has a lot of awesome watches. That's what got me into watches was John. Anyway, he had his Sheffield All Sport automatic stolen. It's the one I'm holding here. And because of our partnership with Sheffield, I was able to get him the exact watch that was stolen. It's got the green indicators on the dial, which is his color, and it just absolutely made his day. So we were very thankful for that, and obviously thankful to Sheffield for enabling that happy moment. If you have somebody that you would like to have a happy moment that's got a story like that we can complete the story with a Sheffield watch, drop us a line because we'd like to have some cool, benevolent Christmas stories. And it doesn't have to be a need. It could be somebody who's worth $1 billion that, that gift would mean something because it's something that, the gesture you can't buy with money, or it could be somebody that really is into watches but can't afford one, and this would make their day as well. So if you want to help somebody out and we can enable that with Sheffield's partnership, drop us a line. We'd love to make somebody's Christmas with a new watch. Thank you for joining us for Switchcast with Doug Tabbitt and Tyler Sanders, produced by Ethan Huffnagel. Switchcast is an automotive entertainment and opinion show, and nothing we say should be taken very seriously. We do not give tax, investment, legal, emotional, or professional advice, and the only licenses we hold are driver's licenses. The opinions expressed on this show are exclusively held by the people pontificating at that moment and do not reflect the values of our producers or sponsors. Our theme music is provided by Emily and Ivory. You can stream their full album on Spotify or SoundCloud. If you like this show, you can stream it in its entirety on your favorite audio podcast platform. Check out switchcast.live for more info.